Are you thinking about moving to a new country? Maybe you're curious whether life is more affordable in Australia or the US. Both countries offer great job opportunities, high living standards, and exciting cities to explore. But when it comes to everyday costs, rent, food, healthcare, and transportation, where does your money go further? The US may seem cheaper, but Australia's free healthcare and higher wages could make life more affordable overall. Let's find out. Have you ever dreamed of owning a home? Australian homeowners must spend significant money to acquire real estate properties, especially in Sydney. Housing is one of the biggest expenses, and prices vary by city and state. You must decide between spending $800,000 for a Sydney house or $300,000 for a home in Houston. The cost of purchasing a house in Sydney amounts to 1.2 million AUD, equivalent to approximately $800,000 US. Housing costs across most U.S. cities amount to between $300,000 and $500,000 US, while exceptions exist in significant metropolitan areas, including New York and San Francisco. American citizens face less difficulty when buying homes due to lower property prices. The cost of home rentals remains lower in comparison to other U.S. cities. The monthly rent for a single-bedroom apartment in Sydney's central area is $2,500 AUD. The price of equivalent rental units or apartments in the U.S. reaches approximately $1,500 USD. But rent depends on the city. The rental prices in New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles exceed those in Australia. The residential costs in Houston, Phoenix, and Atlanta remain substantially lower than in other cities. U.S. house sizes exceed the average in the Australian real estate market. The average house in America offers more significant sizes and includes additional indoor areas together with larger outdoor spaces. The decreasing size of Australian apartments in urban centers enables population density in sought-after neighborhoods. The tax responsibilities of U.S. homeowners include property tax and stamp duty and elevated mortgage interest rates, which the state determines. The real estate markets in Australia and the United States maintain expensive housing prices, yet Americans benefit from lower rates in suburban areas beyond metropolitan regions. Dwelling outside central cities allows people to reduce expenses and achieve financial security. The United States provides lower home prices unless residents need medical attention. The quality of medical care is superior in Australia to this sector. Would you rather pay a little more in taxes for free healthcare or risk big medical bills in the U.S.? In Australia, medical debt is rare. Healthcare is one of the biggest differences between Australia and the U.S., and it affects the cost of living. Australia has a public healthcare system called Medicare. It gives free or low-cost medical care to all citizens and permanent residents. Hospital visits and emergency surgeries are free, and regular checkups are affordable. Medicines are also cheaper because of the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme, or PBS. If people want extra coverage, they can get private health insurance, but it's not required for basic care. In the U.S., healthcare is private, so people must buy their insurance. The cost depends on the plan, job benefits, and coverage. On average, insurance costs between $300 and $600 US per month. Families and people with health conditions pay even more. Even with insurance, extra costs like copays and deductibles add up quickly. Emergency surgeries can cost over $50,000 USD, making medical care very expensive. Without insurance, hospital bills in the U.S. can be extremely high. Treating a simple broken bone or infection can cost thousands of dollars. In Australia, medical care is much cheaper, giving people peace of mind during illness or emergencies. Australians pay for healthcare through taxes, but their overall medical costs are much lower than in the U.S. Food prices are an essential factor when comparing the cost of living, and overall, food is slightly cheaper in the U.S. than in Australia. Grocery prices vary based on location, but everyday essentials are generally more affordable in the U.S. For example, a loaf of bread costs around 3 AUD in Australia, while it costs about $1.50 USD in the U.S. A liter of milk costs roughly 2 AUD in Australia, whereas it costs about 1 USD in the U.S. Similarly, eggs, cheese, and fresh produce often cost less in the U.S. due to the country's massive agricultural industry and high domestic food production. Craving a Big Mac? Australian fast food expenses exceed those of the United States market. The price for a McDonald's complete meal is 12 AUD, which equals $8 in Australian currency, but stands at 7 USD in the United States. People in Australia need to spend 4 to 5 AUD for a regular coffee, but individuals in the US pay 3 to 4 USD. The reduced restaurant prices in the United States create an illusion of reduced living expenses, mainly among frequent restaurant customers. This price disparity between Australia and the United States exists mainly because of different taxation structures and market competition. U.S. food items are taxed less than other products because Walmart, Costco, and Kroger operate with bulk purchasing strategies to create price competition among customers. Australia depends on imported food supplies. Thus, processed and packaged items incur higher prices for customers. Higher wages in Australia also raise grocery and restaurant prices. Market regulations maintain superior quality in Australian fresh products, including fruits, vegetables, and meat, although these items cost more than analogous U.S. products. The pricing structure for organic and specialty foods shows more favorable conditions in Australia due to U.S. suppliers demanding higher prices for these items. Americans usually find lower prices in their fast food establishments and packaged grocery stores. As a result, the final cost between nations could align if one chooses fresh along local or organic items. Transportation costs include public transport, fuel, and car expenses. Public transport in Australian cities costs 150 to 200 AUD per month. A regular metro pass in the United States can be obtained for about $120. The biggest difference is car costs, even though public transport prices are similar. A liter of gasoline costs less in America than in Australia. Petrol prices in Australia reach 2 AUD per liter, but Americans purchase their fuel at the price of 1 USD per liter. The cost of owning a car in the U.S. remains lower because taxation, along with insurance premiums, is reduced. Americans heavily depend on cars, yet public transportation remains the prevalent method of commuting in major Australian cities. Student and parental welfare suffers from high educational costs. No charges exist for students who are citizens of either country, yet the cost of university between Australia and the United States shows significant variation. The costs of study at Australian universities fall between 20,000 AUD and 35,000 per year based on the university and educational program chosen by students. The Australian government allows students to defer their education costs through HECS, HELP, or HEX Help by taking government loans, which become convertible to income-based payments when they finish their studies. Through its tuition repayment program, the government enables students to afford school costs. University enrollment fees in the United States span from USD 30,000 to 60,000 yearly, exceeding all other global education costs. The high cost of college education compels most U.S. students to take student loans that result in extended payments they need to make over several years. Student loan repayments in the United States remain a major crisis, even though Australia uses income-based approaches to handle its education financing. Another critical factor in comparing the cost of living is wages and work-life balance. Australia has a significantly higher minimum wage than the U.S., $23.23 AUD per hour, or about $15.50 U.S. dollars. The federal minimum wage in the U.S. is only $7.25 USD per hour, although some states have higher minimum wages. Work-life balance is also better in Australia. Australian workers receive more paid vacation days and better working conditions. Full-time workers in Australia are entitled to at least 4 weeks of paid annual leave, while in the U.S., there is no federal law requiring employers to provide paid vacation. As a result, many American workers have fewer vacation days and work longer hours than Australians. Australia and the United States have pros and cons regarding the cost of living. The United States is better if you want cheaper housing, food, and transportation. However, Australia is the better choice for free healthcare, a high minimum wage, and a better quality of life. Ultimately, the best country depends on personal priorities. If saving money is your top concern, the U.S. may be more affordable. But Australia has the advantage if you value healthcare, wages, and work-life balance. Choosing where to live is a personal decision, and factors such as career opportunities, family considerations, and lifestyle preferences should also be considered. If you had to choose, would you rather live where wages are higher, food is expensive, or where everything is cheaper, but healthcare isn't free? Would you give up free healthcare for cheaper food and housing? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more comparisons like this.